Ohio State and Purdue, a November in the Horseshoe. What could be more Big Ten than that, baby? Get ready. It's one day away. That means today is Freaky Friday on the podcast daily, and it's time, as always, for bold predictions. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. You got the juice flowing for this one, Bill. It's a traditional matchup. It's a championship atmosphere. Every game is a playoff game for Ohio State. Are you amped out of your mind for a visit from the Boilermakers?
I'm about as fired up as one could be for a game that has a 38-point spread. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna be watching it in my car, I think, for a little bit, so that'll be interesting. But yeah,
it's the perfect place to watch it.
That's right.
Why are you watching it in your car?
I'm going to the Indiana-Michigan game, which starts at 3:30. So at some point, I'll have to start driving there.
Wow. So let me get this straight. So Fox believes that the Ohio State-Purdue game is big enough to be America's featured game at noon on Saturday, and Kings of the North doesn't?
No, we're going to have dual coverage. Doug is going to Ohio State-Purdue, and I'm going to Indiana-Michigan, which is on CBS Sports. It's America's most watched network. It's the network of stars.
Huh. Interesting. Before we get into BPs, what is your take, your read? I think we should start doing Michigan Friday as we head into the game. So what is your expectation?
We're not going to start doing that.
I'm already starting it. So what is your expectation, Bill Landis, for this Indiana Michigan game? Michigan is Indiana's favored over Michigan, but for the first time since 1968, I believe. And they've never been the underdog by fewer than 7 points since then against Michigan. Yet here we are, and they're like a 21-point favorite.
It's 14, I think.
Yeah, but they're going to win by 21 in my mind. So
I mean, they very well could be. I picked it close. I think I picked Indiana to cover, but not a total blowout. But there's definitely a path for Indiana to win that game by 35 points because Michigan can't score.
Are you guys using this game? And I won't get to watch it because I'll be driving home from Ohio State at that time. But are you using this as a barometer to view if Indiana is more of a threat than we really thought they were, or if Michigan is more of a threat than we think they are, or neither?
That's a really good question. I guess it'll be more. I just think Indiana's good already, so I guess it'd be more of a tell on Michigan. I hadn't thought of it that way.
I just wonder because Indiana's played nobody that's had any sort of actual physical presence, right? Like up front, physical dudes. Michigan
just been playing ghosts.
Well, Michigan should conceivably have the interior strength and the edge speed that like will put Indiana in tumult for the first time this year offensively. So
that's right. Yeah.
I think it just provides a really interesting barometer to see where these two are, because like the road to here has been pretty easy for Indiana. That's not to say they're not good, because they're certainly playing clean football and really strong football, but like it's weird.
No, it could become very apparent that there is a talent gap, right? I think, because they have not played a team that is more talented than them yet. And Michigan definitely is in some spots.
I'm more curious about how Ohio State shows up to play on Saturday against Purdue, which is why this is an Ohio State bold predictions show for the Purdue game.
People like hearing about how crappy Michigan is.
I know. That's what Kings of the North is for. That's not what the
just a hater. Just so much haterade over there in Shea Ward.
We have a lot of shows, Berm. This one is structured pretty specific and pretty bold. So why don't you go first and give us a prediction for Ohio State Purdue? Get us on track.
Okay. Again, I tend.
Did you not know that today was bold predictions? What's going on over here?
I honestly don't know a lot of things anymore. But what I do know is that I have suggested and or projected or believed that Ohio State at times uses their offensive game plan to align with the biggest recruits that are in the building. And there are the top two running backs in the country in the class of 2026 coming to town this weekend. Derek Cooper from Miami and Savion Hyder from Virginia, which I believe is where Travion Henderson's from. And I really think that Ohio State is going to want to continue to build off of last week's offensive line performance. And while you maybe aren't going to get as big of a test from Purdue, they still have decent defensive tackle play there. And I think we're going to see Ohio State focus on the running game. And because of that, I think we're going to see a 100-yard game from each Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins to put on display that you don't have to separate the two best running backs in the country in order for them both to be productive and successful.
As Bill pointed out, Purdue also gave up 1 billion rushing yards to Notre Dame earlier this year. So
yeah, but that's because they were just they had a bad week. Okay, everyone has a bad week. Ohio State had a bad week against Nebraska. Sometimes you just have a bad week.
They've had a lot of bad weeks defending.
Okay, they've had a lot of bad weeks. That doesn't mean
one might call it a bad year.
Okay, so they've had a bad year. Okay, so they're the worst team in the Big Ten.
Uh-huh.
That's all the more reason that Ohio State should be able to do whatever they want up front against Purdue, and that includes a 100-yard day for Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins each.
Okay,
that hasn't happened yet, right? Trey hasn't gone for 100 in any game, I don't think, has he?
No.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm actually on the verge of including James Peoples in there with a 100-yard game as well, but I'm not going to go that crazy.
That's good, because I was going to boldly predict that James Peoples rushes for 150 yards in this game, because I don't think that Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson need to play a tremendous amount against Purdue. With all due respect to the Boilermakers, who have made some games in this series quite entertaining and quite unexpected, and Ryan Day has talked them up all week as being better than their record indicates, which it would be hard for them to be worse than their record indicates. This is a game where Ohio State needs to get as healthy as possible for the stretch run. They have to play in a baseball stadium next week, which they should also rest their football players for that, because I would hate to see someone run into a brick wall in Ivy and get injured right before playing Indiana and Michigan. So this is an opportunity for that. At home against a struggling Purdue team that can't stop anybody on the ground, let James Peoples get a lot of work and experience, because as I mentioned earlier in the week, there's still a ton of football left, like 4 regular season games, potentially the Big Ten championship game, and then 3 or 4 playoff games still ahead. Like this, the length of the season, we all knew it was going to be wild, and it was going to be a war of attrition, and depth was going to be tested. But it's November, and you could still play, the length of 2/3 of a normal regular season. That's a wild amount of football. So take advantage of that if you're Ohio State. If you can build a lead with Trey and Quinshon early on, even better. But then you hand it over to James Peoples and let him cook. And I'd like to see him play some extended stuff, because what he showed earlier in the year was pretty encouraging.
I do think Ohio State's going to run it a lot, but I stayed away from a player-specific bold P because of that. I'm not sure how much the starters are actually going to end up playing in this game.
But if you go back to that Purdue Notre Dame game, I'm just looking at the numbers. Jeremiah Love had 10 carries for 109 yards. Riley Leonard had 11 carries for 100 yards. Jadarian Price had 8 for 86. They don't need to play a lot to get big numbers if they hit them. So I think it's possible. And also, Bill, I'm just going to deviate because that's what we do on the show. I have a question for you. And now I'm wondering, is Doug going to this game just to ask Ryan Walters how he feels about being told in the summertime that Doug said, we think you're the worst team in the North, and now he's going to go ask him again? Because now I'm starting to feel like Ryan Walters is in for a bad time with Doug.
I don't think he's going to talk to anybody from Purdue.
Okay, I thought he was just going to go be like, so Ryan, I said you sucked, and now you do suck. How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Thank goodness. Although that was fun.
Ryan Walters, Bill's guy, did give a great show for himself at Big Ten Media Days. Hey, you guys picked us 18th out of 18, huh? We'll show you. We're going to finish 19th out of 18.
It makes me think of something else, so I'm just going to keep rambling. So last weekend at Penn State, I was talking to a quasi-famous Iowa supporter who travels around the country and watches football games for a national television show. And that person, I mentioned that I work with Doug, and they were like, oh, that was the best question. Oh, we were so glad to hear Kirk ask that question a couple of years ago about the offense. And they actually laud Doug as a hero, apparently, in the Iowa community.
They built a statue of him right next to Niall Kinnick. It's outside the stadium. You can see it. Can I make a bold P now?
I mean, hold on. Let me think.
I'm really amazed with Berm's Berm's tangents, and this week has become his go-to move has been to like name 6 facts about a person, revealing who they actually are, who the source is that he talked to, and then never name them by name. This is the
Bill, you're
fascinating move that he's got going on this week.
Okay. I think Ryan Day was leaving some special teams breadcrumbs out there on Wednesday night. Do you guys know the last time Ohio State blocked a punt?
Maryland a couple years ago?
Correct.
Yeah,
November 19th, 2022 at Maryland. It was Lathan Ransom.
Lathan with a broken wrist, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. In a very odd game in college.
Back-to-back weeks that Lathan had blocked a punt.
Yes. And I think those are the only 2 blocked punts Ohio State's had since 2022. I think Ohio State will get one on Saturday. I think they'll want to like put some stuff on film these next couple of weeks to get Indiana and Michigan thinking about some stuff too. And I think maybe there could be some special team shenanigans in there, or maybe I'm just wish casting because we thought Ohio State would be more aggressive on special teams all year, and that hasn't happened yet. But Ryan Day expressed some frustration with that on Wednesday night, so I think they look for an opportunity in this game because I'm expecting Purdue to be punting a lot in this game. So give me the first block punt since 2022, and I think it will come courtesy of Carnell Tate, who I did double check to make sure he's on the punt return team before making that pick. Yeah.
You're definitely dreaming, Bill. There's no way.
Sorry. I haven't got one of these right yet. Why stop now?
That's a great. Well, guess what? You're going back to back. We're going snake draft order this week.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. Okay. Purdue has struggled at a lot of things, one of them being protecting its quarterback. I liked, Berman, was you right? He was asking about Jack Sawyer this week about sort of being right on the cusp of getting some sack production. He's not had one in 3 games. He's not had one since he had a sack and a half against Iowa. But his pressure, he still leads the team in pressures. His pressure rate nationally is still actually pretty good. He just hasn't gotten home for a bunch of sacks. I think he'll have 2.5 in this game. It will. I guess Hudson Card. Purdue's been doing some weird stuff with his quarterbacks. I think they're back to Hudson Card starting and like kind of being the guy. Now there's an opportunity. They play Ryan Brown, who runs a lot more but can't throw very well. So maybe if he plays, sacks will become a little more difficult to come by because he's pretty elusive. But I don't think that'd be the case anyway. I just think Ohio State's pass rush gets after it this week. This just feels like a week where they can probably kind of pin their ears back a little bit, have some fun, generate some havoc in the backfield, pad the stats a little bit, and Jack Sawyer will get 2.5 of those sacks.
Sometimes I feel like overmatched, let's say 38-point underdogs come into the Horseshoe in November and they have no interest in actually trying to win the game. Like, are you thinking that Purdue, with nothing to lose, will actually like call a bunch of pass plays to give those opportunities for Ohio State, Bill?
Early on, yeah, I think they'll probably get away from it somewhat quickly if things get out of hand fast, which I think they might. Ryan Walters is calling the plays. It's a very weird dynamic. He is a defensive coach who took over offensive play calling like 3 weeks ago. And the first game was awesome. And then after that, it sucked. But I think he wants to show people that he like kind of knows what he's doing. So I think they will throw the ball a decent amount because if they just try to line up and run it, I don't think that'll be incredibly successful. And I think they don't want to just keep giving the ball back to Ohio State. So they'll try to steal some stuff via the pass game and probably have some trick plays lined up too. I wouldn't be surprised by that.
How close, I mean, again, Bill, as the resident expert of the North, how close is Ryan Walters to being fired? Like, does this season matter at this point, or is it already determined that he's going to be fired? Like, how their performance is on Saturday, does it potentially change anything, barring a win, which obviously would change things?
I did look, Berm. I'm going to jump in before Bill answers because that's Ryan Walters' guy. If he needs to defend him, I'll let him do so.
I don't.
The buyout is only $9 million. Now, considering the other expenses that Purdue has, they may still balk at that amount. It's a little bit much for a Purdue football program. However, every assistant coach, save for one, has their contract expiring on December 31st. So it is more affordable for them currently. Ironically, the only coordinator who was under contract into next year was Graham Harrell, who's already been fired. And he signed one of the most ludicrous deals that I've ever seen which his buyout drops if Ryan Walters is fired. I don't know who coerced him into signing that deal, but it is one of the dumbest financial decisions I've seen anyone make. So financially, Bill, it is distinctly possible.
Yeah, I think that this is probably Ryan Walters' last year as Purdue's head coach,
So
which
it
is
doesn't
why
matter what they do.
it doesn't matter what they do, which is also why, like, I know that there's still some Purdue ghosts out there that have people afraid sometimes when these two teams get on the field together. I don't think Purdue is nearly in that place to come close to doing something like that. So,
are those the same ghosts who've been playing Indiana?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep. Good. You mentioned how fruitless it could be to try and run against Ohio State. I think that applies to pretty much everybody, but definitely Purdue as well, which is why I'm going to continue beating this drum that Tyleik Williams should not play a lot in this game. And even if he was fully healthy, which he may well be, Caden McDonald needs to play 25 snaps in this game. And I believe that he will. Now, that would be a pretty significant jump up from the workload that he's been receiving so far this season. Be 2.5 times what he got against Penn State, although he's made most of those count. If he gets to 25, which I believe he will also have 5 run stops for Ohio State at defensive tackle in a game that I think will continue the momentum. And it doesn't mean that against Indiana or Michigan that Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams, the TNT combination, that they are no longer starters, that they're not going to continue to play 40 or 50 snaps in game. But Caden McDonald needs to start and deserves to start sharing some of that workload with those guys at the top. And I think last week was already a step in the right direction, and doing that in a key situation down the goal line, pushing the center back is yet another reminder of how good he can be. And doing it against Purdue is not going to carry quite as much weight as Penn State. But when you have a bunch of productive reps, which I think he will, then that starts to turn the tide a little bit.
Purdue had 38 yards rushing on 25 carries against.
It was just a bad week.
Some of that was sack adjusted, I understand, but it's not good. Although Devin Mockabee, I think, is a really good player, so it's kind of this weird thing. But I think he's good. Bill, to your punt block thing, Purdue punted it 10 times against Notre Dame. I'm going to keep going back to that game because I think it's the most comparable. So I think you're going to get a fair number of opportunities to block one of those. Ohio State has the two, in my opinion, in Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith, two of the not just best players in the country at their position, but in the country at any position. And what makes Jeremiah and Caleb interesting to me as a person who is always fascinated by sports psychology is that they both seem to be very self-motivated. And the comments from Jeremiah Smith on Wednesday night about it seems like he was like not happy with how his season's gone so far, which is insane. Makes me wonder if we're going to see one of those throw it to him 3 times and all 3 of them are 40+ yard touchdowns, because I think you're going to see a kid who is wanting to put some things on tape and to make himself to further like his own confidence. And so I don't think Ohio State's going to throw it a lot. In fact, again, going back to that Notre Dame game, I think Notre Dame's quarterback, whose name is right now Riley Leonard. I think he only threw it 9 times against Purdue.
Well, he stinks.
Well, they didn't have to throw it. So, but their backup threw it more than he did when they were winning 66-7. So, give me 3 touchdowns for Jeremiah Smith. And I understand I'm saying that there's the 100-yard rushers all over the place, but give me 3 touchdowns for Jeremiah Smith and 2 of them over 60 yards in this game. I think that there's an opportunity for him to make some ludicrousness happen.
A little triple ding dong action.
Yeah, big day for him.
So you were, I don't know, impressed or concerned or what with Jeremiah Smith's comments on Wednesday?
I like people who say what I'm doing isn't good enough, even if what they're doing is astounding. It was Jenny Taft, I think, of Fox, who had the story a couple weeks ago from
the All-American girl
when he got cut from a team when he was 8 years old. and it's like haunted him ever since. And I don't know, it's the Jordan mindset that I think drives people like him, and or the Mamba mentality, whatever you want to call it. Like I think we've barely even begun to see him truly dominate a game yet, and I think Saturday Purdue certainly doesn't have anyone that scares you enough to think that they can guard him very long. So and I think it's an important week for Will Howard to go out, because he shouldn't have to do a lot of the intermediate stuff and the precision passing to win this game. Because I think, again, Ohio State's going to run the ball a lot on Saturday in my mind. So just a couple deep shots to show people, hey, it's like similar to what Bill said about the punt blocks. Like, I think you just want to put stuff on film and let Jeremiah run by people a couple times. Okay. So there's that.
That time has arrived once again on Freaky Friday, a future fans Freaky Friday. She is the guest predictor. She crushed it last week in the Penn State game. She got the Emeka Egbuka touchdown. She got the Ohio State win at Penn State. She is Liberty Ward, brought to you by Future Fans, futurefans.com/OSU. Congratulations on your bold prediction.
Thank you very much. Now, I actually think I might be getting the predictions all right, besides my dad and his friends.
Yeah. And she's getting all that football knowledge thanks to this interactive experience, which has been awesome. She's learning all the rules of the game. She's having a better time watching on Saturdays, including watching Ohio State beat Penn State. And she'll be watching Ohio State and Purdue Saturday at noon. After that, later this month, this is the last weekend. If you want to register to get those tickets for Ohio State and Indiana, this is the last week to do that. You get 2 tickets on the 40-yard line. Pretty good. On-field experience with Brutus and the cheerleaders for the national anthem. Pretty good. And obviously, you're going to be there for one of the biggest games of the season, which is Ohio State.
And also, like, if kids like yours and they're really into football, and you should get those tickets to go down to the field with the cheerleaders and Brutus Buckeye, because that sounds awesome. So get those tickets. It
does. And you can enter to win multiple ways. Buy a Future Fans box. It's awesome. You'll have a great time no matter what, even if you don't win the tickets. Buy a Future Fans box, $49.99. You can join the fan club, or you can post on social media and tag Future Fans. If you do buy a Future Fans box at futurefans.com/OSU, enter the code OSU giveaway at checkout. That will get you 5 entries to win those tickets for Ohio State, Indiana, but that's a couple weeks away. Ohio State, Purdue is Saturday. Do you have another bold prediction?
Yes. Well, I actually do. I have 2.
2 predictions. Okay.
Actually, make that 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay, where are we going with this?
So I think Will Howard and Emeka Egbuka, they're both going to score a touchdown. And the score, I think, is going to be 59-33.
59-33?
And
okay.
And then I think Ohio State is going to win. So I have this little chant. OHIO.
Okay. Another big win for the Buckeyes and more Emeka Egbuka and Will Howard touchdowns. What a surprise. Futurefans.com/OSU.
Future Fans.
Back to Bill Landis.
Since this game
what
is
the hell?
going,
I thought it was my turn.
No.
I thought we were doing the snake.
No
snake.
Sorry. No snake.
I killed the snake. It's dead.
Snake's
unbelievable.
Dead. Yeah. Because I wonder if you guys are thinking at all the same lines as I am, because I'm expecting this game to get out of hand. I think we'll see multiple quarterbacks. And the last time we saw Julian Sayin, he was chucking that thing down the field.
He sure was.
Even though he didn't really need to. He's only played 2 games, so you have 2 more to play with. Although I don't think redshirting should factor into how you use him anyway, because he's not going to be here for 5 years. He will throw his is it first? He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet, has he?
He did. He threw one to Bennett Christian.
Okay, so he'll get another touchdown pass in this game. Not his first touchdown pass, but a touchdown pass in this game. You'll see both. You'll see Devin Brown. You'll see Julian Sayin, but Julian will be the one who throws the touchdown in a similar fashion to Devin Brown last year against Purdue when he threw one to Brandon Innes.
You weren't watching till the end of the Western Michigan game when you had to jump on and do Kings of the North shows?
No, but I do remember watching it upon a rewatch that play happened. Yes.
Yeah, it was fourth and 4.
Yeah. It was
up 49-0.
He had a long run after the catch, right? Because there was
Up 49-0 and decided to dump it off at midfield and let him run. I'm just gonna co-opt your BP here, but I think that we will see Lincoln Keenholz and Aaron Nolan for the first time this weekend.
Are we going to see 5?
No, I don't think Devin Brown will play. Just
why not?
Not necessary. And you have to get Lincoln and Air just at least a couple reps out there.
Okay.
It's time.
I like that. That's pretty bold.
That is bold.
It's not my true BP. I just want to say, like, I like where your head's
he
at.
just didn't think that you were spicy enough, Bill. So he's like,
yeah, I think Julian's going to play. But I also think that he will be the second guy in, and then you let Lincoln and Air split the fourth quarter if things go.
If Ryan Day puts Julian Payne into the game as a second QB, it's all he's going to get asked about after the game.
Yeah, but if Devin doesn't play, then you understand why.
I agree.
No, you don't.
That is logic, but that's not what's going to happen.
Okay, but the Ohio State fan base is a logical group of people who think about things rationally and understand if Devin's not going to play because there's just no reason to risk him getting hurt in a game like this against Purdue, then you can reasonably assume that Julian goes in second, and then you let the 3 and 4 or 4 and 5 end up handling the fourth quarter if it comes down to it. Like Quinn Ewers against Rutgers a handful of years ago. Like, come in, even if there's 3 handoffs for Aaron Nolan at the end of the game, I think he is going to play for the first time.
Wasn't that Michigan State?
Yeah,
don't disrespect those 3 snaps, the greatest of his Ohio State career. You know Ryan Day as well as anyone, Berm. He is not going to skip Devin Brown and go straight to Julian Sayin and then let that become the entire conversation after the game. There's no way.
I think the explanation is pretty easy to say.
But you could also just give him 1 and then move on to the rest of the guys and say, well, that was all he needed.
Nah.
Okay. Well, that's your BP.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's not my BP.
Or your co-opting of Bill's BP.
Yeah, this is just me. I'm just freeballing, man. I'm just out there, and I've got things floating around.
That's too much information.
I've got things just floating around in my head, and I'm like, well,
and moving your camera around. And so, what I want you to do is not
it doing it again.
Lower the camera to reveal how free you're balling. So we don't need to do that.
Oh, that's terribly inappropriate, Austin. This is a kids show.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to protect the kids. You have one more bold prediction to make. That is yours and yours alone, Berm.
Yeah. What's yours? Did you have a third?
My third is that Jelani Thurman will be rewarded for his triple catch last week with a red zone target that goes for a touchdown. It's not the spiciest in the world, but I think that we're starting to see a incremental step-by-step build for Jelani Thurman, and Ohio State needs it. Will Kazmarek, that was the most detailed injury update I think that we've got from Ryan Day in several years, that Will Kazmarek is going to be out for a couple more weeks. So Purdue, Northwestern, not the most competitive games on the schedule. But again, if you're talking about length of the year and building depth, like, I think that Jelani Thurman will get a healthy opportunity to show some of the progress that he's been making. He got a 4th down catch, bobbled circus catch, whatever. But Will Howard found him. He continued on that route. It was competitive excellence to make sure that when he got to the ground, he still possessed the football, whatever happened along the way. But I think that they'll continue to show some of that confidence in him with a little touchdown action on Saturday.
Ryan Day said on his radio show that it was like Jelani was trying to catch a bar of soap.
He's also really proud of I think he got 3 catches and 3 drops on the same play. We've heard that a couple times this week.
Yeah, he got a good laugh out of that one.
A guffaw, a hearty guffaw.
Yes.
I am fully confident that Ohio State will score a defensive touchdown this weekend. Now, the question is, who done it? And to me, there's only one man who's going to do it this weekend, and it's Alex Stiles.
Oh.
I think until he scores a defensive touchdown, I'm not going to call him Sonny anymore.
Wow.
I just feel like there needs to be an incentive out there somewhere, and I don't think he hates being called Alex. If he does, Sonny, if you ever see that, oh, damn it, Alex, if you ever see this, that you can tell me to stop doing it. But in the meantime, I'm going to hold on to Alex Styles and I think it comes this weekend. It might be a fumble return on a sack caused by Caden McDonald or something, but Sonny's been, damn it, Alex has been around the ball.
You're the one that made this rule.
I'm terrible at this. Alex has been around the ball a lot in the last few weeks. He's playing significantly better football than he did at the start of the year. You can tell he's getting more comfortable, seeing the field better. And I do think Purdue, with Devin Mockabee, who ran it fairly well against Ohio State a year ago, might come into this game thinking they have some confidence in that respect, just because the way the Ohio State defense at times open up the middle of the field for people. But I think that Alex is bound for a big day, and he's going to cap it off with a tutty.
He looks like an absolute destroyer with the hair out.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
The dude's
I
a
think
unit, man.
that's the look.
Big fan of that look.
And he's in the semifinalist pool for the Buckeyes, so a defensive touchdown could go a long way. Also, what are you voters doing that Cody Simon is not a semifinalist? I am perplexed at what you've done, and I'm not going to get over it anytime soon. Maybe they can rectify it and just write in. Let's get a write-in vote going for Cody Simon. Come on, voters. Let's do it.
I hope Cody doesn't play a lot this weekend for Ohio State's sake, for the victory's sake. I think that a weekend game where you can let Sonny, Alex, and Arvell and CJ play a lot, and Gabe Powers and Peyton Pierce. Like, I want to see these other guys out there. I don't think Cody obviously should be in that semifinalist list if Alex is, but the reality is he's not. And this weekend is a good weekend for Alex to be the leader of the linebacker group, because he's going to have to be next year. And for Arvell and CJ and Gabe and Peyton Pierce, and maybe even a little Garrett Stover action, who knows, just to see everyone get some more reps. So,
well, we'll find out tomorrow, Saturday, in the Horseshoe, Ohio State, Purdue. It's at noon. You might have heard Ohio State's going to play all of their final games. This entire second half of the season will be noon games. That information already slipped out from some folks at Fox for Ohio State and Indiana a couple weeks. So prepare yourselves for that. Looking forward to be back in the Horseshoe to cover Ohio State and Purdue, though, tomorrow. For Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham, I am Austin Ward. Thanks so much for joining us on a Freaky Friday for some bold predictions on the Podcast Daily. Have a great weekend.